I'm here in London, the city that I grew up in and place I still call my home. But in late 2020, the newspapers were filled with the tragic news of Ella Casey-Deborah's coroner's report.
Hey, has the video started?
The sweet, smiling 9-year-old girl became the first and only person I'd ever heard of to have air pollution listed on her death certificate. When did air pollution get this bad? And what is the government doing to fix it? I'll be meeting young Londoners who have taken to the streets to fight for better air quality, and mums fighting in court for their children's rights to grow up happy and healthy whilst dodging polluted roads. These people aren't prepared to wait for the postcode lottery of the air that we breathe, especially with more planned construction right on their doorsteps. Looking at the government's website now, it says that air pollution is the biggest environmental risk to public health. As I'm scrolling down and reading more, to be honest, it only gets worse. I knew that pollution was bad, but I didn't know that Londoners breathe the worst air in the UK and Europe. It causes nearly 10,000 premature deaths a year and costs the NHS over 1.7 billion. That is outrageous. I need to know how these particles in the air are having such a harmful effect. I was able to give Penny Hosey a video call to find out more.
The impact of air pollution on the body is systemic. So by that I mean it affects every single organ of the body. I don't think there's one area of the body that it doesn't have a health impact on.
And so what are the health impacts of living somewhere like a main road or a busy street?
Living along Main Road equates to smoking the equivalent of 10 cigarettes a day.
And our children, are they especially impacted by this?
Given they're quite low to the ground, you'll see that babies and young children, toddlers, are particularly affected by the traffic fumes, for example.
Penny told me that particles called PM10s and PM2.5s, which are smaller than a human hair, can go into children's systems and affect their breathing. It has led lung growth to decrease and has caused a big increase in childhood asthma as a direct result.
So I think children do disproportionately bear a health burden from pollution.
Wow. The damage that air pollution can have on the body seems pretty clear to me, but the fact that more people don't know about this impact is crazy. Ella Casey-Deborah's mum, Rosamond, had to face her own daughter's death and fought tirelessly for 7 years to get her cause of death recognised. I want to find out more about her story and how it impacted her.
To date, as far as I am aware, my daughter, Ella Roberta, is the only person to have air pollution on her death certificate. I'm now beginning to take a bit of time to absorb it and probably recognise what an achievement it is, because it wasn't easy. And so when we went to court with my daughter, her lungs looked as if she'd been a smoker. So what was really interesting is on the surface, she looked okay, if I can say that. Like, if you saw her walking around, you wouldn't think. And I think I was even surprised. And it wasn't until they did a post-mortem did we see the real damage.
As a reporter on Air Quality News, I wanted to know what Pippa Neal thinks the impact of Ella's death could be, and how the reporting on pollution has changed over time.
I see reports every single day from across the world that are published, sort of highlighting the various different health impacts that air pollution has on us. Previously, this wasn't really something that was being covered all that much in mainstream media, and now, you see The Guardian, The Times, The Telegraph, all these mainstream publications kind of reporting on it weekly. It's things like Ella Casey-Deborah being the first person in the world to have air pollution on their death certificate that have really kind of pushed this topic to the forefront of conversations. It's no longer something that, because we can't see, we can ignore. The stats are there, and Ella is the unfortunate case study that enables us to kind of really see the human impact of air pollution.
I don't see myself as a martyr or anything like that. Although what I will admit is I have paid, and my family have paid, an incredibly high price for sitting here talking to you now. And every now and then I do forget that. But yeah, we have paid the ultimate price, really.
What she went through is a tragedy that no one would ever want to go through, but she's used her situation to kind of make a positive for people across the UK and across the world.
While Rosamund may have got some sort of justice, Ella's death is not a one-off. Learning lessons from the coroner's report is now crucial in understanding how we can move forward.
So out of the inquest, the coroner came up with a number of recommendations. The actual whole summary of what happened is there, and he read it out, which took him about an hour then.
The coroner, Philip Barlow, published a report with actions to prevent future deaths. A key finding from this was that the government's limit on particulate matter needs to be brought down in line with World Health Organization levels.
Earlier this year, 99% of London was over these WHO limits, and the UK has already been found in court to be systematically and persistently exceeding its own legal limits, which is double this amount. Another finding was the lack of awareness about the levels and impact that pollution can have.
I think the Ella Roberta Kitty Deborah case highlighted the fact that healthcare professionals and doctors aren't being given enough information to be able to advise their patients. And in terms of the public, if the doctors and the healthcare professionals don't have enough information, how can the public be expected to have that same information and advice? There really needs to be a strong public health campaign advising people of the dangers.
Increasingly though, young people are having to become the voice for this. With our climate and social justice coming into sharp focus with protesters around the world, young activists are increasing pressure to speed up the changes in society. But what drives people to campaign at a young age? I was able to meet with Choked Up, who are pushing for changes to the law and not just a hearts and mind campaign.
What drives me to campaign?
What drives me to campaign?
If I don't do it, who will?
This feeling that I have to and that there's no other option.
I know that I am my own best advocate, and I want to be that voice for people who are like me, but also my little sister who has asthma and people within my community.
Especially now that environmental change and environmental solutions are being put into practice, it's important that all those who are being affected are being factored into the change.
I think at the moment they're kind of the Greta Thunberg of the air pollution world, and they're not only inspiring other young people to kind of speak up and raise awareness, but I think they're inspiring anyone who works in the industry because they're not afraid to hold back in what they have to say.
I found that there wasn't really a voice speaking the issues that were important to me and that I perceive to be the most important environmental issues.
I also know that there's a huge disparity in London communities where areas like mine, which are both high in BAME population and a working class population, are subject to the worst brunt of air pollution.
They've definitely done an amazing job in highlighting the racial injustice aspect of air pollution. It wasn't like top of the agenda when it came to air pollution, but now I think there's just no ignoring that fact.
The majority of our campaigning has been online because of the pandemic, but in-person campaigning it's been really good to like meet with people and just build those personal connections.
They gained notoriety for their road signs, which explicitly highlighted the disproportionate impact that pollution has on BAME communities.
It caused so much conversation and so much media coverage, and so finally people were speaking about issues that we cared about, and we were the news in that sense. And following from that, we were able to connect with so many other people who wanted to not only amplify our message but work with us.
Yeah, that was really a moment where we felt proud of ourselves and we felt like our campaign had properly been launched and was properly in motion.
Their drive and determination are inspiring, but their unwavering voice doesn't come without a cost. Both Destiny and Rosamund explained how they have to constantly justify themselves.
I think I might have been naive to start off with because I didn't realise how political the whole thing was. I do think that children's health is on one side and politics is on another side, and the two don't necessarily mix.
As a child, like, it's a lot to take in because you've got so many other pressures, whether it be social pressures in school, and having to juggle all of that together. We just want to be listened to more than anything. It's not just a case of, like, you know, we're just talking about raising awareness for air pollution, but we want to go that one step further in that we want changes to happen within our lifetimes, because first of all, we're running out of time, and, you know, so many people's lives are being lost in the process.
The climate crisis and institutional racism is two things that are on the tip of all of our tongues at the moment, and something that we're all kind of learning about and understanding. And the Choked Up have just done an amazing job in showing the connection between the two, and sort of highlighting that in order to solve the climate crisis and our environmental issues, we also need to kind of solve our perpetual institutional racism.
Like, we have to explain things like environmental racism quite extensively, which in itself is quite emotionally taxing, because it's an experience that I have to live through every single day, and sort of having to break that down just so somebody else can empathise with how I feel can actually be quite a lot.
No, I shouldn't have to justify myself. I actually went to court and I've proved that, so that has been and gone, really. I think the justification was before, and before I got my verdict, I was very careful. I used to say the words, air pollution might have contributed to my daughter's death, so I was very careful. I know that without the traffic where I live, my daughter would have still been here. Are there too many cars? Yes. The question is, who is giving up their car?
Monitoring has become increasingly important to highlight the reality of pollution. To see the extent of the problem of air quality in their area of Catford, Destiny and Nieletti decided to use an air quality monitor on the busy road compared to side roads where they have to walk every day.
Air pollution remains a rampant problem in our communities, but not many of us know the severity of the issue. These air pollution monitors in question, though, do the job in that they measure how bad air pollution is.
Knowing the real levels of air pollution in local communities will help them grasp the severity of the issue and demand proper action.
When people monitor it, is to let the public know what they're breathing in.
Although monitoring is more common now, when Ella Kesey-Deborah died, Rosamond didn't know that pollution levels were high in their area. In a 28-month period, Ella was admitted to hospital 28 times, which corresponded to spikes in air pollution. At that time, pollution was up to 6 times the legal limit set in the UK.
So we're currently by Catford Bridge Station, which is home to extremely high levels of air pollution and surrounded by many vulnerable communities.
And as you can see, there's already so much traffic. One of our biggest concerns is the fact that, our parents, carers, teachers are constantly having to, commute around areas like these.
As you can see, we're in a quieter area. It is quieter areas like these that tend to be more affluent and thus possess the cars that contribute most to air pollution. This is unfair, as it means that more vulnerable communities that live closer to these busy roads must bear the burden of air pollution and the terrible health effects that carries with it.
Within this area is a school street. Now, school streets recognise the fact that air pollution is a rampant problem in our nation's children, but what it fails to acknowledge at the same time is the fact that air pollution is a 24/7 issue.
Look, air pollution doesn't just affect my daughter. We live off the South Centre. So do tens and thousands of other people.
Air pollution is leading to more severe asthma attacks.
So if the air pollution wasn't there, then you wouldn't have as many children suffering from asthma.
So air pollution started her asthma, and it was also responsible for the asthma attack at the end.
And it's quite telling that during lockdown, no child died from asthma, and that shows the extent of how asthma and air quality are interlinked.
The clear link between air pollution and asthma is a harsh reality for families across London and the UK. With children especially being affected, I spoke to Ruth about how she cares for her 5-year-old son with severe asthma.
At the moment, he is a bit resistant to his inhaler, so that's a bit tricky, and I'm sort of trying to distract him by talking about something really, I don't know, something that would interest him whilst giving him the inhaler, and he normally listens to me and goes, and then breathes it in. When his breathing difficulties started, the hospital gave us the inhaler to take home, and I think it was about the third or the fourth admission he had. They said, okay, you need to start him on a daily inhaler every morning and evening, as well as giving him this reliever inhaler when it's bad, and they didn't tell us how to give it to him if he was resisting it. So that was really, really hard. He would run away from me if I got the inhaler out. With every attack he had, I held him, restrained him like 40 or 50 times. I don't want him to get too fixated and worried about it because he's so young. He's going to be 5 in September. I took him to the doctor because I could hear a kind of wheezing sound. And then it was about 9 at night and he was in the cot on the bed, and I just noticed that his chest was moving up and down with the effort to breathe, like really moving so much that his head was starting to sort of bob a bit. He started doing this thing which is a sign of severe respiratory distress, which is where you start grunting. So it's such an effort to get air in and out of your lungs that you're like making this really weird guttural kind of grunting sound, and his nostrils were flaring as well. So that started at 9 at night, and then he was stabilising a bit by like 3 or 4 in the morning. Oh God, it's really difficult to put it into words, really. He was really a different kind of kid during that time. Really distressed a lot, not sleeping well. He looked pale, he'd lost weight, his growth had slowed down as well. To get over wheeze or an asthma attack, they give you a drug called prednisolone. If you have that too frequently, it can affect a child's growth. So it was on the 50th centile, by this stage it was on the 9th. When we went to the park, you'd see other kids his age like running around and climbing on things and chasing each other. Not really fast, but like moving a lot, and he would often just sit down or walk really slowly. So, yeah, a horrible time. There can only be an improvement from here. I'm hopeful about the future, cautiously optimistic. And I hope that he lives in an environment that doesn't exacerbate respiratory problems.
Ruth's dream of living in a city with clean air doesn't seem so controversial. So I want to see exactly what the government is doing right now. Looks like part of the Mayor's action plan to making London's air cleaner is extending the ultra-low emissions zone. This gives a daily charge to polluting cars, with 3.8 million new people in the zone today. Analysis shows that it will create a £50 million annual benefit, as well as reducing pollution deaths by 10%, and has meant that Londoners are abandoning diesel cars 6 times faster than the rest of the country.
While clean air measures are being used, there is an increasing amount of tension in Newham and Greenwich because of the new Silvertown Tunnel under construction. Local residents and activists took to the street in protest, and Destiny went along to highlight what impact this will have on BAME communities.
Well, it's a campaign, a cross-party campaign that's trying to stop a new road tunnel with HGV lanes between Greenwich Peninsula and Newham. And Newham has got the worst air quality in the UK. And 7% of deaths in Newham are caused by air pollution. So it's pretty serious.
We shouldn't have to, compromise our quality of life and the way we live for the sake of a more efficient travel. And so we are, wholly against the Silvertown Tunnel because it will bring nothing but harm and risk to the people living in Greenwich and Newham, and absolutely no benefits whatsoever.
Well, the first impact is juggernauts on the roads. Apart from particulate matter, which is poisonous for all of us, particularly bad for small children, and it stops their lung growth, and it gets into every part of the body, even into the placenta. So it's already a health crisis here. So it's going to make that worse. It's something we should be taking away, not adding.
Like these really emphasise the fact that they're so community-led, and the fact that it's the people that it's the people that are actually hurting, and it's the people that are standing against the Silvertown Tunnel, and it sort of mobilises you even more. And I was just in absolute awe of what every single person stood for, and I couldn't be happier that this whole thing even occurred in the first place.
This is the year of COP26. The climate emergency is something we have to take very seriously. The Mayor of London cannot be seen to be the mayor that brings a new HGV motorway in the year of COP26.
It's just not letting life happen anymore. You do have a voice, and you can definitely speak up against any injustice, whether it be environmental, whether it be about class, whether it be about race. Your voice is valid. Yeah.
She's part of a group which has been campaigning on air pollution, a group of school pupils, Destiny from Choked Up.
And protect black and brown lives in clean air laws because we share that life. With placards saying, "Let Greenwich breathe," and "Trees much trust," and that's where I saw the true Greenwich. A borough I know which is rich in community spirit and one reluctant to let forces beyond their control govern their home. I want to express my deepest feelings of solidarity towards my Greenwich friends and residents, and together we will not let this come our way. With enough pressure, we can get the Silvertown Tunnel scrapped.
At the start of this journey, I didn't realise the impact pollution had on our lives. But now I know it's about more than just particles in the air. It's livelihoods on the line. Activists massively help in creating awareness around this issue. But with the expansion of ULEZ and banning of diesel and petrol cars, there is hope. Have the changes happened too late? Only time will tell.
Here lies the lives once alive, but have now fallen to form names carved in graves, too soon to the time they were meant to leave, lives written off by the sickest irony, the toxic air we currently breathe. Heavy is the heart that lies within the communities that continue to pay for the crime they ultimately didn't commit. Blood fallen at the hands of gross negligence, unattainable targets, wishy-washy aims, blinded by ignorance, products of a total disregard of human lives. Caught up with commuters, we're simply people needing to work to feed and to clothe and to care for our families. We should not be weighted with the burden of compromise, the compromise that is, of how we live, our health, the quality of air we breathe, and to the extreme, our life expectancies, all of which fall short of its true potential.